This is number 2 in the playlist that are the preparedness items nobody ever talks about. Now, this is Billy along with the homestead honey. She actually prefers Michelle, and you can see her eyes pointing this way. Yeah, milk boy, the greatest Pyrenees, which just a moment ago was lost out here in this grass. All right, this is one of those things that once again, you don't hear anybody talk about. The first edition, we talked about compost. Now we're going to talk about soil and all the things that it's responsible for, which really is everything. Am I wrong?
Nope.
Okay, so here we are standing in one of the areas. We're going to mosey on over this way just a little bit to show the benefits of having soil that, by the way, is in recovery. Now, these are the sheep inside the, or as Michelle calls them, the sheepies. They're inside the chicken tractor or the sheep tractor. She's going to go ahead and let them out. While she's doing that, let's just kind of talk about things. We're in the spring flush right now. My pants, as you can see, are wet, you know, plumb up to here. And there's a reason for that. The grass is kicking, and this is exactly what we want. And at the end of the day, we're kind of grass farmers, but you could also say we're microbe farmers, because it's not just what you see here, it's all the things that are happening below the surface that you don't see. And frankly, a lot of us don't talk about. We seem to think that we need nitrogen-based fertilizers, that we need this, we need that. We don't. What we need are partners. Right now, we see these sheep to a fair extent as our partners. This livestock guardian dog is a partner. The chickens that are 3 days behind these sheep as partners. But you know what else are partners that nobody talks about? Those microbes down in the soil. I'm rereading Greg Judy's second book, and he talks so much about it because it's that important. But every time we go out there and we spray all this junk out there that everybody in the chemical industry says we need, guess what you're doing? You just decimated some of your biggest partners, and they're located right there in the soil. All right, well, as you can see, she's all smiles for a couple of reasons. Number one, well, both of us are, because number one, the thing I enjoy out of every day more than anything is putting animals on new ground, which we do every single day. We could even do it twice a day during this spring flush and make their area much smaller, which is what this sheep tractor is designed to do. It will teach you grazing. We could leave them in here and move this thing multiple times throughout the day as needed. But in terms of preparedness, where most of us are missing the boat has been resupply. That's exactly what the compost video was all about. And this one here is really about the same thing, because that compost can be made into what things, Michelle, to help?
Compost tea, you can make...
extracts.
Yep.
Extracts we'll use to soak into the soil. The teas will go on the foliage. Want to give another hat tip to Dr. Elaine Ingham for teaching us all this. We're going to get a lot more into that in the future. But where it comes down to preparedness is that you're destroying your resupply routes, okay? And what I mean by that is those microbes, when you spray nitrogen-based fertilizers down in that soil, what's happening?
You're killing all of your, you're doing a bunch of different things, but you're ultimately losing all of your life in your soil, which is making all of the nutrients, your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and all the micronutrients available. So when you get rid of them, you're in a constant cycle of I have to reapply all of these things that are also creating compaction layers in your soil.
Right.
Which are creating anaerobic conditions in your soil.
That's right, and salts that are eventually going down there, whether it's in your garden or otherwise, y'all. We are going to spend a lot of time in the future, because look at the world around you. Folks are wondering, well, why are you talking about preparedness? Because permaculture is preparedness. All of it goes hand in hand. All right, you see this small flock of sheep, and they're going to be growing. Right now, just as a little side note, we actually don't have anywhere near the stocking density around here that we need. We're in the middle of spring flush. And right here, you can see where they've already trampled some stuff. They're eating like crazy. And as you can see, this is absolutely lush, nowhere near where it's going to go to where it's going to be. Now, I want to encourage a lot of you, go check out Greg Judy, read all of his books, watch his YouTube channels, and if you can, do classes with him. Here's the reasons why. Is when you get down to brass tacks on a lot of this stuff, if you're feeding these animals a bunch of grain, not only are you losing money, they're not good employees. you're making them very lazy employees.
You're also changing their rumen if you want them on a forage-based diet. You don't want them on a grain-based diet.
Stop and think about this. How few inputs you need, because once you get that soil right, and it has the soil food web, thanks to Dr. Elaine Ingham, when it has that soil food web and everything that it needs, guess what? Your care for whether it's your chickens, your cows, your sheep, whatever the case may be, goes way down because they are deriving nearly everything they need right from this. That's where they're getting it all. So that means less inputs, and that also means that in this time where everybody's feeling the pinch right now, you're not having to go to the store and spend some of your hard-earned money that you need right now for other things on keeping these guys alive. Because at the end of the day, only thing they really need is water, a little bit of mineral, and obviously what the sun's providing, because the water is generally free where we live, and the sunlight's free. This is free. We want as few inputs as possible, but it all starts with the soil. Another little side note before we move on, there's a few of these animals in here that need to be culled. That's another way in which you're going to hemorrhage money like nobody's business, is where you turn your farm from a farm into a petting zoo because you've gained an emotional attachment to some of these animals. Look, I love you dearly, but if you ain't shedding when you're supposed to, you're jumping the fence, or you have issues with parasites, you got to go in the freezer. And that is really the brass tacks when you get down to all this. You got to look at all of this in the most dispassionate way. But the ones that do extremely well on this grass, we're going to keep them. They will breed, but the ones that don't, in the freezer you're going to go. That's how it's got to be. All right, let's go down. We'll do the bees and the food for us.
All right, I'm just going to walk down.
You know what else benefits in all this? What you see behind me. Those are bees. There are many like them, but these are mine. Okay? Okay, they're hers. And they're yours, right? Okay, think about this. When you get all these things in place, we're finding out that we're reaping the benefits in ways that we didn't really consider before. When you're using nicotinoid pesticides, nicotinoid, I can't say that word. Anyway, you're decimating the population of these bees. There's probably a bunch of other reasons why that's happening too. But we're also finding, and this is, I'm not saying this to brag, y'all, but this is fact. A lot of the folks around us, most of them, have lost nearly all of their bees. We've gained 3 more hives so far this year. And we attribute every bit of that to doing what's right in the soil and not spraying any of that junk out there. You see, this soil is teeming with every activity imaginable, and it's only getting started right now. The reason this looks a little bit lower where we are right now is we actually needed some of this stuff to make some of the compost. So we weeded part of it, but the rest of it's just like what you saw us in. Everything, and I mean everything, reaps the benefit. And here's, if you're thinking, okay, this only applies to those of us that live on acreage, does it apply in every scenario? I mean, if you have a person.
Even if you're in the city, you can still let's say you have a lawn, you can still not weedy or not mow your lawn and leave some of the species for the bees. Also consider, those of you that live in the city, I know a lot of you think that you just have to harvest grass and you're going to constantly put on all of those nasty fertilizers that's killing everything in the soil. That's why you have disease, because think about it. Every time you take a step towards nature, nature's going to take 5 steps back to you. And that's exactly the dog we bring to hunt in permaculture. And we use all of these awesome teachers that we just talked about a moment ago to learn more and more about it. All right, let's move on over to the food forest. Which is probably going to be down here at the bottom.
All right, y'all, here we are in the food forest area, and I hope this really brings home the point. First of all, Michelle, you want to tell them about these beautiful, beautiful plants we got right here?
It's a nitrogen fixer. It's lupine, 2 different colors, but you want to keep them away from your animals.
All right, so here's the beauty about all this, y'all. I mean, boy, they are breathtaking. It can be beautiful and functional all at the same time, okay? So we're going to take a little trip over here, and we're going to talk about the benefit of good soil management, which you see right down here in this food forest. And Michelle will point out things as we go. Right over here, it's a little more bare, and we're fixing that at the present moment. But look at it as we pass uphill. We are in, and you can see all this is an emerging food forest. And right here, I got my hands in the byproduct of just good soil management. These strawberries we put in as a ground cover. Look around you. It is an ocean of not just strawberries, but of all the other beneficial things that are putting things in the soil, taking them out. But guess what? That whole soil food web is at work down here. And then growing up in the sea of all this, you got blueberry, you got apples, peaches, pears, all within this area that once we put things in place, they're kind of on autopilot to a certain extent. And you almost feel guilty even walking through here. But look at this. We got 65 gallons and stopped counting last year in this tiny little area. And we're probably on, am I mistaken to say that we're probably going to have a lot more this year?
Yeah, because we transplanted some across the driveway and up the hill also.
You know what else is a really good, this is a little side note, but it's important to note for a whole bunch of reasons. See these strawberries, the ones that we have entirely too many of? Well, guess what? My favorite ice cream place on the planet, Meadow Sweet Creamery, is in town. They can't find strawberries. They can find the body of Bin Laden easier than they can find strawberries right now. Well, guess who has too many of them? They can use them. Put them in their ice cream because they're not going to put up with any junk. I was in there the other day, seeing if they had any sugar-free, gluten-free ice cream that I could actually eat. Well, they need sugar. Well, guess what? We just talked about bees over here, and they said they can make me some ice cream special with the honey that I get from the bees. So between the strawberries I have and the sugar that they can use in the form of honey that I can actually eat, they can make me something. And it's also a blessing to them, a blessing to their customers, because they have high quality stuff that was not sprayed with anything, and a blessing all the way around. But think about the soil and how it's a blessing to you. Y'all, I mean, this is one of those neglected things that nobody really tells you the full value of. Everything starts with that soil, and I mean everything. And this is why we're saying this is one of the most forgotten things, or the things nobody ever talks about in terms of preparedness. Because once you put these things in place, that, like this food forest I'm standing in, they require almost no care once you get them off and running. There may be slight management issues you have to deal with from time to time, but it's putting out more than it requires of you. All right, y'all, if you need anything from us, whether it's bone sauce, comfrey, world's best deer repellent, that's why the deer ain't fooling around with these trees down here. They're covered in bone sauce. Any of that stuff, y'all, check us out down below. Need a butchery class? We got that online. All of it. Don't forget to check us out at the website, and also the Ball in This Pimp cast on planet Earth. You'll find a link for that down below. Till next time, this is Billy, along with the Homestead Honey, from Perma Pastures Farm, where permaculture is my passion. It's hers too. We'll see you next time.